What is it about 80s horror films that still grabs us, still inspires us, still captivates us, and in many cases, still scares the shit out of us? Is it purely nostalgia, or was the golden age of horror onto something timeless?
This house is clean.
What do you got in mind, McCready?
A little test.
What made the 80s horror movies so distinctive? Why do their influences echo in the genre decades later?
I can't think of a thing to say.
The key to this enigma lies in the decade itself, a period marked by maverick directors who challenged narratives and dared to tread uncharted waters. The 80s gifted us unforgettable characters who, even decades later, continue to haunt our screens. Iconic characters such as Freddy Krueger,
Come to Freddy.
Jason Voorhees, Pinhead,
We have such sights to show you.
Chucky,
I'm Andy. What's your name? Hi, I'm Chucky, and I'm your friend to the end. Heidi-ho.
You stupid bitch!
Michael Myers, and so many more. Many of these characters are so emblematic that they still manage to have successful franchises. One of the main reasons that made 80s horror so iconic was their use of practical effects. Instead of leaning on computer-generated imagery, these directors and their crews extensively employed practical effects and imaginative storytelling to bring their chilling visions to life. Filmmakers adopted a more direct approach, incorporating innovative techniques like animatronics, prosthetics, miniature models, and pioneered some amazing camera work that even created characters of themselves. These real-world effects weren't mere choices. They brought a palpable, gut-wrenching realism to the screen, creating a more immersive experience for the audience. Many of these sequences were produced without the aid of computers, instead depending on the creativity and ingenuity of the dedicated production crew. The decade was marked by synthesizer-driven soundtracks from their own directors, such as John Carpenter, who would go on to score many of his own films, including the iconic Halloween music. Even though this was technically 1978, it was setting the bar for creativity for the decade to follow. In the sphere of 80s horror, nostalgia isn't merely a footnote, it's the director of the show. Picture this: the local video store, the excitement of rifling your fingertips over the corners of VHS tapes until you find the perfect slasher or thriller, the anticipation building as you clutch your prized discovery, eager to pop it into the VCR. In a day of instant gratification, many of us will never know what it was like to have to leave your home and go to your local Blockbuster.
It's so beautiful.
And for the time, this was actually the more convenient way to see a film. The first Blockbuster didn't open until 1985. Let that sink in. Maybe the most monumental inheritance of the 80s horror films lies within the inventiveness it nurtured. From the heart-stopping chest burst in Alien to the metamorphosis sequence in American Werewolf in London, these scenes weren't merely petrifying, they were triumphs of cinematic ingenuity. The directors and crews sometimes didn't have a whole lot to work with. In the realm of independent horror, Sam Raimi's Evil Dead shines. Shot on a $375,000 budget, a fraction of Major's, it showcased impactful horror without Hollywood abundance. Evil Dead followed friends unwittingly unleashing demonic forces during a cabin retreat. Raimi's innovative camera work, the shaky cam, became a trademark. Strapped for resources, a camera on a plank simulated evil force, defining the film style. But as the 80s became part of the past, film studios slowly began relying on computers. So when looking back on some of these iconic films, we can see how they pushed boundaries and laid the foundation for what we know today as horror. I love a new horror film as much as the next guy. Sometimes it's just as good to scratch that horror itch by dusting off your old DVD collection. This is Zach from the Horror Factory. Like, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.